Hi, welcome back to the Yarnell School of Fine Art. Really glad you could join me today. We're going to have a great time. We have a beautiful painting. It's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of learning things in here. But before we get started, I want to thank all of you from all around the world now for sending all the many wonderful cards, letters, emails, and phone calls that we hear from you. It just means a lot to us, and we love to hear from you because it helps us know what we want to put together to do these programs for you. So don't be afraid to send us photographs and give us your ideas on subjects. And although we can't paint everything, we certainly look at everything that comes through, and we want to try to accommodate all of you from all around the different parts of the world. And for instance, today we're going to begin with something really unique. Well, actually, let's go ahead and take a look at the painting over here. I'm kind of excited about this. This is the big painting here that we're going to do of Sedona, Arizona. And what I've done here is kind of unique. I'll show you here in just a second how an artist takes 2 or 3 photographs and makes a what we call a composite. Well, this is the finished painting, as you can see, with the beautiful stormy sky, the sunset, the great mountains, and the snow. But now look what I've got here, reference material-wise. Now here's the original photograph for the mountains, and then, believe it or not, I took this photograph, these several photographs, right off of my deck at my studio. And some of you have been there, and they're watching the show, so you know what I'm talking about. We live way up in the country, and it's a wonderful place. We're at the highest point in that county, and we have marvelous storms that come through. So I took these photos, and I kind of put them together. This is called a composite. And then I just kind of messed around with it here, and I stuck it up here, and I thought, you know what? I think that would make a better sky than the one that was on the photo. So this is what you call creating a composite, okay, where you put several photographs together to make one, and that's what I've done here. Now we are, of course, going to an 18 by 24 canvas, kind of shrinking things down just a tad bit. So we're not going to be able to get everything in here. And folks, remember, this is a learning experience. This is school, so it's a little bit different than if you're in your studio or my studio, where we're working on, quote, really top-notch professional pieces. So remember, it's all about the learning experience. Okay. Anyway, we want to get started here. We're going to get done first with the sky. We're going to just lay this in here, and I've done a real rough layout with a little charcoal just where the basic mountains are. But we're going to go down here to our palette now using our Hake brush. By the way, I might mention we've added an extra color here, if you can look right here. This is the ultramarine blue that we traditionally have in our palette. This is a phthalo blue, which is a little greener, and it's a marvelous color to add to your palette. So for those of you that have been following the show for many years, you know I normally just use ultramarine, but now I'm adding a little phthalo, so don't be afraid to get some of that in there. All right, first step now is to just take our Hake brush and take our gesso, and let's go ahead up here to our sky, and as we often do, we just go ahead and start with a little gesso. Now I might mention, remember the little trick here for spraying your paint with a mister bottle. Get this a little finer spray, because sometimes it's a good idea to have just a little mist on there. It makes the paint kind of slide on a little bit easier. And you want to get the paint on nice and creamy, kind of using X strokes. And one way you can tell if you've got the paint on thick enough, and by the way, just paint right over the edge of your sketch. You don't have to worry about the perfect sketch. I've noticed a lot of times some of you will draw real perfect, then you get way up on it and you just paint real close to it. It doesn't matter because you're going to paint over it anyway. All right, now the way you tell if you have enough gesso on here is to take your finger and run it across there, and if it's real opaque on your finger, see what I mean by opaque is that you can't see your skin coming through it. If it's real thin and transparent where you're using too much water and you run your finger on there, you'll notice it's real transparent. You can see your skin coming through. So it's important that you get the right amount of gesso on your background. It's actually more important than most of you will ever realize. And that's why sometimes your paintings dry out kind of rough looking. Your paints don't look as good when they dry, because you don't have enough gesso. See, gesso is what opaques your colors. All right. Okay, now we got a nice coating of gesso on, and you can just kind of run through and test here and there, just do a little spot checking, and you can kind of do that, and then you'll know. Now, while that's still wet, now at the base, if you come back over here again to the painting, now, of course, the center part of the painting here is all big, dark cloud, but we're not going to even worry about those yet. Underneath that is a lighter color. See this golden tone right here? It goes into some light tones to some grayer tones until it gets a little darker on up to the top, okay? So the way this works now is we're going to start with a little orange, maybe a little yellow, right at the horizon, like this. Lay the color on and just stretch it across approximately where the top of the canyon walls are. I don't know if any of you have ever been out there to this place, but it's a marvelous place. It's really an artist's paradise. Okay. Now you don't want to get this too bright. See, I'm keeping it nice and soft. Another little trick, remember, if the paint gets real sticky and gooey, lightly mist, just very lightly. Don't get a stream like that. You just want to keep a mist there. And put just a little more color here. Now I'm going to pull this color. Now, by the way, anytime you spray to keep the moisture in there, always go back and blend the spray in. Otherwise, when it dries, it'll leave little white spots. So you want to keep an eye on that. All right, now we can start adding our color. We'll go down here, a little bit of water on your brush. Take a little bit of the phthalo blue, a little bit of the ultramarine blue. It's called double loading your brush. Let's start here at about the midsection. Now see, this is where a lot of you make the mistake of blending. When you come down here, you feather. See, just lightly feather. Work your way up. Nice big X strokes like this. And then come on down here and feather it in. Keeping in mind all along that we're going to come back and do a lot of work to this, so you're just going to throw it on there as long as you don't have any hard edges. Now, you've heard me talk about that forever. I'm really proud of this. Yeah, this is our almost our 20, I think it is our 20th year of doing these shows, and I know a lot of you have heard me talk a lot about some of these things, about hard edges and softening edges and composition and all those things. A lot of you are brand new viewers from somewhere in the world, and it's fun to hear from you and about some of the problems you're having with painting. Well, the thing about acrylic painting is that as long as you keep the paint hydrated, you can keep moving it. See, like if I need to, I can keep misting this lightly, and I don't have to worry about it drying, okay? That's always the biggest problem, is most people worry because it dries so fast. Well, if you want it to stay wet, so you can keep it wet. Now, add a little bit more blue, and maybe a little burnt sienna this time, and we'll darken this corner up here. Now, this is sort of a little condensed version of that painting. You may want to do a big one. The big size over there is 30 inches by 40 inches, and it's big. This is 18 by 24, so you can see it shrinks it down quite a bit. Okay, now, once you kind of get see, you don't see any hard marks in here. You can see some movements of the brush, which is fine. Besides that, we've got all these clouds that go in here. So while that's drying now, we're going to go in and start building some of the other things in the painting. So let's go back over here and take another look at the finished piece. Now this is going to be a great study in depth, or creating, okay, see this first layer of mountains back here? So we go, that's value 1, if you want to call it that. Actually, value 1 could really be considered your sky area. That would be value 2. Then see, it gets a little darker, value 3, value 4, value 5, and then things just get a little darker as you come forward into the painting. Okay, that's called the gradation of values, which gives you the depth in a painting. Over here, what we're going to do now is take your number 10 bristle brush, take a little bit of white and purple and a little bit of blue, and we're going to create our first value. Now, your first values in any painting, the farthest ones, are always cooler and lighter and less intense. Okay, now this is kind of a purplish color. Now most of you that have followed me for many years know my obsession with purple. I love purple and I love green. Those are my two favorite colors. But purple is your natural shadow color. Anyway, so you want to use it. A little gesso, a little more ultramarine blue. And we're going to just